Okie dokie. Continuing on, as you can see, this was my little target stand that I had made out of some plywood laying around. One of them little swinging three-piece target things is what this is for here. I drilled some holes in it to keep it steady, and I was getting bounced back with a 177, and really I wasn't hitting those targets with anything stronger, but I put inner tube, old Harley inner tube, and stapled it on the back, which helped with a 177 bounce back. This is my Publix chip clip, and this is where I do the heavier testing. This was the 22 here, and I'll show you. Let's see here. I'll have to get this somehow. This is what I put on the back to keep everything from blowing through. But as you can see, it split the wood, and I'm going to take this back off again. Okay, so this is what we have. Got some pretty good hits and pellets stuck into this deck board, and that was, like I said, starting to split apart. I had a pellet left in it, and here's what 3 shots of the 22 did. Well, probably a couple more than 3, but 3, 4, 5 shots or so with a 22 just blew through half-inch plywood, and that just isn't going to work. So let me put this back up here so I can work on it. I've gotten my my catch can done, and trying to bend this in, these sides in, because this is where the overlap is and where they've welded the canister together. It is almost impossible to try to bend that without deforming everything, so I just went ahead and cut those sides, turned them in, and that way most of the pellets will get caught and stay in here. And that's why I put the bottom piece on there, just to capture as many as I possibly can. And what I'll probably do is I'll put a big towel in here, behind here, to keep the noise down for one thing, but the other thing too is that it may soften the blow. And I've also taken the front piece that I cut out, and I tack welded it into the major hitting area. So this measured out at 37 thousandths metal, which is roughly 18 gauge, and I figured I better double up, because 18 gauge, I thought this was heavier stuff, but yeah, when it's all put together and everything, it really feels a lot more solid than when you cut it up like this. Then I put 2 brackets on it here with holes in it so I can mount it, and I'll probably put hooks on that to you know, be able to remove it easier. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do there. But this is how it's going to work. It'll be set up right on the back of this board, right behind the target, and it'll get bolted down to this, and then we're going to go from there. So at this point, I think I'm going to take this out back, and I'll put a couple 22 rounds into it just as it is. Plus, the other thing too is bounce back. Even if one should bounce back, the wood will probably deflect a lot of that. So anyway, this is my answer now. Of course, having a plasma cutter and a welder and welding this metal was really shit. They're not using a high quality steel, and I couldn't get Stargon gas last time for my welder. All they had was argon, and I hate that shit. It just doesn't produce as good of a weld. It does a hell of a lot more splattering. So, but they just didn't have any. They don't carry it in stock. So that's it. That's the gist of this, and I'll probably you know, give it a coat of black paint or something, so all my welds that bled through aren't gonna rust to death in the humidity. But I'll go ahead and give it a few rounds into it first. I'm not going to film that in case I do get any ricochets. I'd rather it didn't hit the camera. But I will do a shooting with all three weapons. The 177 is going to be quite boring because it really doesn't have any penetration. But it is semi-automatic, so it's kind of a fun plinker. The 22 and the 25 now, they're more serious, and you know, I mean, a 25 can take down a deer or a hog, so that's a fairly impressive air gun, if you will. So we're going to stop this here. That'll be part 2 for today. I'm going to mount this. Well, I'm going to hit it a couple times, see what it does. Then I'm going to mount it. Maybe I'll give a quick update before I do publish this as to what happened with the 22. So that's it for now. Alrighty, so I've shot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds into it. 1 Crow Magnum heavy, and the rest of them were Crossman lighter weight pellets, and I did it with this 22 caliber. It's a Hatson Edge. It is a break barrel rifle, and I've got a 4x32 scope on this, so I was roughly at, I'd say about 13 meters or so, and here are the results. The dings got pretty good. You can really feel them, and they actually put little dents in the outside, and this is double steel. Now, it did a good job catching the lead. Nothing ricocheted, nothing came back out. There's all the lead that a little bit more in there, but it's doing its job great, and I think it'll do better with the towel in there. Now, the 25, I still don't want to really get too crazy with mounting and everything else, but the 25, I don't have pellets for it. I got them coming. You can't just go into any, you know, Walmart or Kmart or whatever and buy 25s. They just don't carry them. I guess it's a little bit too heavy, you know, too heavy of a slug for them. A 25 caliber measures out at 6.3 millimeters, so it's quite a round. In either case, there it is. It works well. I don't know if it'll bust through after a while, and we'll see with the 25. I mean, that'll be the main thing, the 25. If it holds up to the 25, we're good to go for a while. So that's part 2, and part 3 will be shooting all 3 guns and everything once I have the pellets for the 25, and we'll do a thing out back, and that way there won't be any ricochets to the camera. So, another day, another morning. The sun's starting to come back over the trees now, so I got everything done in the shade. I'm happy. Till next time, wait for part 3. Okay, this is still part 2. And I need to learn to move my Sony camera further away so that I don't cut my head off in the picture, which might be a good thing. But in either case, yeah, I went ahead and painted this thing, and then I made the mount for it, and the hook thing really didn't, I didn't like it. I figured it'd be too loose and it might come undone. Or so what I did here is I cut some quarter 20 all thread, and I've had a couple wing nuts and everything, and basically I put a nylock nut and a washer on this side and also that side, and then I double nutted this side here, and then it'll be easy to remove because all I have is 2 wing nuts, and it'll pop right off. So I think this is pretty good. Now we wait for some pellets to do a shoot in. I definitely want to hit this, you know, a good few times with a 25 too. So I want to do a whole shooting thing here. Damn, it's getting hot and the sun is bright. So I just ordered the pellets yesterday, and well, you know, usually takes a few days or whatever to get them here. So yeah, that'll be the project. You know, not a whole lot to say about it. You know, obviously you don't need a plasma cutter to cut one of these up. A die grinder will do just fine, or if you get somebody to hold it, you can do it with a Sawzall. You're going to need a welder if you're going to do what I did, obviously. Or go see somebody and buy them a case of beer, and they'll probably put it together for you. So anyway, there it is, and the big test will come once I have all the guns and the pellets and everything lined up, and I'll give all the information as to what weight pellet I'm using, what grain, which weapon, and we'll go from there. So stay tuned to part 3. So this will really be the end of part 2. I promise.